Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Process Podcast. Ant Haynes, welcome to the Process Podcast.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Just finished your second session?
Did.
How was it?
Yeah, it was good. It's good to get a bit more CrossFit back in the program.
It's cool. You've got a bit of a training crew for your PM sessions at the moment.
Yeah, well, Karan and Skulk are away. RIP to them when they come back into the environment. I'm not sure how much either of them have been training since they've been away, but it's good for them to take a break. So right now I got David Hughes, who's on the program as an online subscriber, and then we have John So, who's one of our members who normally follows the LPC, and I've basically bullied him into doing elite sessions in the afternoon. But it's good for him. He wants to learn, and he's like a sponge, so it gives me an opportunity to teach both of them, really. And then we got Vicky and Lucas downstairs, who are from another gym. They come in and use the space, which is cool to just have people added to the environment. And also dropping from overseas, Florence, who is a semi-finals level athlete, which is also, again, just cool to have in the environment. They don't have to be doing the same thing, but yeah, it creates the atmosphere, which is good.
Yeah, this week is basically our first week in about 3 years where we've had drop-ins.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so cool though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah, it's really cool. We've got loads of people that we know dropping in from all around the world. This kind of used to be the norm, but with Hong Kong not being open, and they just dropped the quarantine-ish protocol that they had, which basically meant if you flew in, you couldn't visit anywhere because you had to sign in for 3 days, and now that's all done. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking about maybe visiting Hong Kong and come to see us here at Coastal, we would bloody love to have you, and there's no better time than now to come visit.
Agreed.
Okay, what we're talking about today, and you have no idea what we're talking about today. You're coming into this blind. I gave you a little hint as to what the conversation is going to be about.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I wanted to have this conversation is because recently I've had quite a number of people just randomly through conversation say that from the outside looking in, it looks like we have a really great relationship. And it's pretty amazing how, we're able to work as coach and athlete, but also work on a business together and, of course, be brothers. And I always kind of chuckle to myself because I'm like, it hasn't always been as smooth sailing as it is now.
Yeah.
And I actually did a post on Instagram, which actually kickstarted the whole thing, which is kind of me just talking about this was going to be our 9th year working together. And there's also a number of people who said, you guys should talk about your relationship and how it's evolved over the years on a podcast episode. So the way that we're going to do this is we are essentially going to start back at childhood. So like early years of life.
I can't remember any of that.
Whatever you remember.
Yeah.
And we're basically going to work all the way through chronologically till now.
Okay.
And I'm going to let you start because I think it's going to be quite funny. And this is going to be totally honest, no holds bar. And it's going to be your account of what you remember of our relationship at that point in time. So we're going to start as early as we can remember. And we're going to work through. So we've got primary school, we've got secondary school, we've got like early secondary school, we've got late secondary school, we've got going to university, we've got post-university, playing rugby together.
Yeah.
We've got Coastal Fitness and you joining the team there. Then we've got and then I think essentially then us transitioning into working together as coach and athlete. And obviously the business growing alongside.
So what, you want me to lead the story and you're just going to chime in and jump in?
I'm going to pose a question to you.
Yeah.
And then you can just take it away. And
All right.
I will, of course, share my thoughts
Okay.
on what I thought our relationship was like at that time.
All right.
I think to start, let's start by saying what our age gap is. I am currently 35, now a master's athlete. You are 33.
Yeah.
I believe we have about a year and a half
Yeah.
gap between us. I should really know that. It's been 35 years,
Yeah.
33 years living together. We both grew up in Hong Kong, both grew up in the same house. After we both went to the same primary school, both went to the same secondary school, both went to the same university, both followed a very similar plan. When we finished university, we both moved back to Hong Kong pretty much straight away, and we have been here pretty much ever since.
Yeah.
Anything else I've missed out there?
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah. I don't know. Where are we going to start? Right at the beginning.
Okay, we'll start at the beginning now. So, sorry. One more thing I think we should quickly define is the different hats that we wear as brothers.
Yeah.
I think we cross over in many different ways. Obviously, the most obvious way is the fact that we're brothers.
Yeah.
A lot of the world knows us as coach and athlete.
Yeah.
A lot of the world knows us as being two owners here at Coastal Fitness and the Process Programming.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got, I guess, like colleagues. Some would say, you could say boss and employee, you could say coach and athlete, and of course brothers.
Yeah.
And so those are the four hats we wear. And I guess for a very long time we've worn those hats now. So let's go back to the start. So what is your earliest childhood memory that you can remember of us?
I think I when people ever ask me what I was like as a kid, and I don't actually remember. I don't know why, but I think the only thing I can really remember of us being like brothers is I'll say the good one first. It's probably me just sitting in the back of like a little electric car that used to drive around the terrace.
I was literally just telling Cammy about this the other day.
Yeah, so I used to sit in like the back of the what was it? A truck or a lorry?
It was like it looked like what's it called? An ATV, like 4-wheel thing, but I used to call it the taxi.
Okay.
And I would come pick you. I could drive to the door as a taxi driver. Yeah. And you'd climb on the back, and I'd ask you where you wanted to go on our little terrace, and I'd drive you 5 meters to your destination, drop you off, and then we just continue to do that.
Yeah,
I was literally just talking about this the other day.
That's like the only thing I can honestly remember like, as like a kid. Like I didn't really remember much as like mini soccer and rugby. I don't remember much of that at all. I would normally call it football, people, but just for this, it was called mini soccer at football club. And I think the next thing I can remember is just kind of growing up is that you used to always fucking bust my head open when I was a kid. You used to push me into fucking corners and desks and chairs, and like, you know, I've had over 100 stitches in my face, and probably 50 of those are probably because of you. Yeah. Like, I think another thing is like probably playing kneeling rugby in mum and dad's room, like on the carpet, running around on our knees, and then you just trying to fucking nail me into the chair or something. And that was about it. I don't know. That's probably where my early resilience started.
Maybe it was all those head stitches is what's basically shaking your memory. Can't remember.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I do also think you have a head that splits very easily.
I got a big head.
You got a big head, but I feel like maybe the skin to skull like ratio is, I don't know, there's something up there, but I feel like you flick your head and it splits open and bleeding.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, the skin is very thin on the cranium anyway, so.
Well, and like when I think back to like early days, yeah, I don't know, you've jogged quite a few memories there. But I think definitely like we had a lot of physical contact.
Oh, I got one, by the way, to interrupt you.
Okay.
When I pissed into your Lego box.
That was also jumping into my mind. I do also remember that.
Yeah.
We used to basically have, that was in our Repulse Bay apartment, the house. We basically had, we had 2 different Lego boxes, and they were like, it was like a small, it looked like a Lego brick, didn't it, with a handle.
One was yellow and one was red.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember just turning around or leaving the room.
No, you'd annoyed me and you'd left the room.
Yeah.
So I squatted on top of your Lego box and I took a wee in it. Like I was, I don't know, like I was in the toilet. Yeah. I don't know why I did it, but I just did it.
Yeah, I do distinctly remember that as well. I remember exactly where it was in the house as well.
It was in the playroom.
Yeah.
That's where I also slammed your face into the cupboard.
Yeah, I also remember that. Yeah, there was a time basically where this whole podcast is going to turn into every time that we abuse each other, cause physical damage. But yeah, there was a time where I was putting something back into the drawer, and you just decided to slam the cupboard in my face. I still actually have a line on my face. When I do a certain smile, I can still see it in the light. But I think one thing for sure is that like we always had a very physical relationship in the sense that like we would wrestle a lot.
Yeah.
I think rugby had a big part of it as well. You know, both getting into rugby at quite young ages and like watching a lot of sport. Yeah. So like we would always wrestle. And when I say wrestle, it would basically be me saying, I'm going to do a submission hold on you now, or I'm going to do this. I'm going to tombstone you in about 5 minutes. I need you to get into this position. And I would do it.
Well, it's also probably because we used to watch WWF.
And we used to watch a lot of WWF.
Yeah.
I remember mum and dad used to be like, you know, this is fake. I'll be like, it's not fake.
Yeah.
No, you know, this is just acting. I'm like, you don't know anything.
But he'd also get angry that we would watch it because he hated it so much.
Well, probably because we'd be breaking each other's spine. When I say we be breaking each other's spine, it was literally just me practicing wrestling moves on you. Yeah. And you would just basically be dummy. And I think an important part of this whole story is that whilst there was a year and a half between us, we were basically the same size.
Yeah.
From about the time, early years I can remember is like really from probably when you were about 7 or 6 or 7 onwards. Everyone thought we were twins. Yeah. And that used to wind me up so much because I would be like, obviously want to be the bigger brother. And so being told you look like you're the same age as your younger brother was a bit of a, I don't know. Yeah. Bit of a stab in the spine.
I guess I actually never had that sort of thing. Like, it never really bothered me if someone said that we look similar or.
No, surely you'd be stoked.
Nah. I didn't want to look like a weed when I was a kid or when I'm older.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I mean, that still happens a lot though.
Yeah.
People still say that to this day, which I think is crazy.
Only in the US though.
Yeah, but still, that means just someone thinks it looks similar. Even if it's facially, that's okay. But like, to even think with like darker skin,
Yeah.
I don't know, different hair, tattoos, and I don't know.
Glad you didn't bring body shape into that. It was on the tip of your tongue, I could tell. So yeah, thinking back to younger ages, a lot of physical contact.
Yeah.
We used to play like kneeling rugby all the time. Basically, like after school, if we went out with our friends, it would be like in mum and dad's room or in the spare bedroom on the double bed, like wrestling or making you stand at the end of the bed. I remember, and I would basically get like a 40-meter run up at the other side of the house and just sprint down the corridor and just rugby tackle you as hard as I could onto the bed. I do remember one distinct time when I did a backbreaker on you. So for any WWF wrestling fans, it's like you essentially cradle the other person like you're holding a baby across your body, and then you drop them onto your knee. And I remember doing it, and you actually saying like you'd broken your back, and me actually thinking I'd broken your back, like legitimate concern there.
I actually don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No, I just remember when you used to do the what's the Triple H one? Where you
the pedigree.
It was that one with my hands behind my back and your face. I used to hate it when you just did that one. I used to get like real claustrophobic about it because my arms are behind my back and then my face is just like piled into a bed. I didn't like that.
There was a time where I tombstoned you as well. I also thought I broke your neck.
Yeah, well, probably.
Yeah, and I think there were just numerous times where basically they would be play sessions. They'd essentially be like aggressive play.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously, like I'm sure every brother or every sibling can remember like a time where it was taken a little bit too far.
Yeah.
And I would always feel remorse and like sadness when I would do it. Sometimes it would be in the middle of like a heated argument or like a wrestle taken too far, and I would just probably push it that one step too far, and you'd split your head on. I remember splitting the head on mum and dad's chair, and there was like blood on the carpet and shitting myself. Another time we were on holiday and hitting a balloon and you tripping and hitting the bedside table with your forehead.
No, I went to hit it and you pushed me in the back and I hit my head in the corner of a TV stand.
Right. That's right. And then I think when we get to secondary school, we'll talk about the headbutt.
Oh yeah,
as well.
That's true.
But I definitely think like those early years, like I actually don't have that many memories of like us two being at school.
Yeah. Neither.
I feel like we wouldn't really cross paths all that much at primary school. I definitely felt like this older brother proudness, but also this like, I don't know, this like older brother ego, I think.
Yeah.
Which was like, I don't know, I carried it like I was a better one. You know, it was like, you need to respect me as the older brother. And I would probably put that onto all your friends as well, where it'd be like, respect me type thing.
Yeah.
But I think it all kind of changed when like secondary school came around. Would you agree? Was there anything else you can think of in those early years?
Yeah, no, not really. Like I said, obviously sport's a big part of our lives. It always has been, but I don't have like many memories. The only memories I have, honestly, of sport is like maybe like playing at rugby sevens and like sitting on Eric Rush and Jonah Loma's shoulders. That's like maybe the only memory I have of sport when I was a kid. And like, you know, playing at Stanley Fort and that sort of thing, but I don't actually have much on top of that. I don't even remember seeing you at Kellett School at all.
Don't have that many
I don't know why. Maybe it's because I had asthma and I used to have to sit inside in playtime.
Maybe.
And play. I don't know. Were you on a different playground? I used to play British Bulldogs on the.
Yeah, we played British Bulldogs. I don't know. Actually, something that's just jogging my memory now as well is actually talking about sport, because my actual memory of you when we were at school and like younger years of sport was that actually you were really lazy. Like it's because, you know, I would always want to go play sport, like especially after school or on weekends if we didn't have training. You know, I'd always try and rope you down to go down to the pitches in front of where we lived, and just kick a football round. And I would always get wound up because you would never run after the balls, or, you know, if a shot was missed on goal, like the keeper would have to go and get it, and you would always refuse to get it. Yeah. So I remember getting really angry and just being like, why are you so lazy? And like being genuinely frustrated, being like, this guy's such a shit partner to play with. I always remember like family holidays, whenever we go anywhere in the world, like we would end up finding a garden and playing sport. And it would, I'm thinking about it now, it would basically just be me saying, try and get this ball off me.
Yeah.
And
it's still what you do now in the gym.
Yeah. And you would basically be like, you know, you could be totally minding your own business, being like, I'm thinking now what you must be thinking, like, I don't really want to get this ball off you right now.
Yeah, not
But
at
I
all.
would literally just like dance around you, like just trying to dribble around you or run with the rugby ball. And when you wouldn't do it, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so lazy?
Yeah, I used to do that all the time. It's so annoying in grandma's backyard.
Yeah, grandma's backyard.
Yeah, I remember that a lot. But I mean, I was like that though. Like I remember, you would come home. This is probably going into secondary school now. So you would come home and I would just be sat there playing the PlayStation with like headphones on because I'd get shouted at for making too much noise, in a beanbag with 2 bags of crisps on one side and 2 cans of Coke on the other side, and just be like molded to this chair. And I'd be sat there for like 5 or 6 hours just playing away. But if I wasn't doing that, I was still playing sport. So I'd be playing rugby or football, but I spent a lot of my time playing on the PlayStation, I guess.
I think the biggest difference in those years was that I had a group of friends who lived in our apartment building, in our complex. I was very lucky to have like 7 or 8 of my closest friends who all wanted to play sport as well, who were literally like either a next door neighbor, lived above us, lived below us. Whereas I think you didn't have as many close friends who lived in your area. You had like mates who lived in DB and like long ways.
I had mates who lived in the area, but they weren't very sporty. They didn't really want to play, or they just played like rugby, and rugby's not a very social thing to do unless you're standing in a circle passing the ball about. Like football, at least you can kind of have a run about and kick about. It's different, but I guess
I definitely think like our relationship became. I reckon I feel that there's more tension came into our relationship when I actually moved to secondary school. And I think like me moving into a new school and then kind of like wanting to assert my dominance, I guess, in a way, when you came into the school 2 years later, was like, I feel like that was when I really, started to, and this is all 100% ego and chasing popularity and wanting to be liked. But the whole idea of like, bullying your little brother was like seen to be a cool thing, which is totally ridiculous now.
But everyone did it though.
Everyone did do it, and so I would just kind of slip into the norm, right? And it's like bullying your little brother's friends. It's not, and it wasn't really bullying, but it was kind of like maybe not being the nicest or not being the most pleasant. I definitely feel that looking back and thinking back, it was like you coming into the new school and this kind of being like, this is my TEF.
Yeah.
Like, welcome to my hood. What did you feel coming in secondary
school? I think I remember like this would be the same for secondary school and university. So it was like uncharted territory for me, but you'd been there for a year or two in both of those, secondary school or uni. And people already knew who I was coming into it, even though I had no idea who they were because they were your friends. So they'd be like, oh, you're Ed's brother, or oh, you're this and that. And I was like, just kind of like sat there and like a deer in headlights, and then eventually you come along and you're like, oh, he's a fucking loser or something like that. I'm like, okay, sick, and then that'll be about it. But yeah, I guess that's kind of expected. I don't know. I didn't take anything bad away from that, or like didn't hate you for that. It's just like that's just what older brothers do. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I guess that's what like movies depict. It's the same thing.
I don't think that's probably where it comes from. I'm just thinking, if I have kids who have similar ages, like I would really hope that wouldn't be the case. That actually they'd be super supportive of one another. And actually thinking about my friends, I did have some friends who would be very supportive and welcoming of their siblings into new school. Yeah. I think probably that era was depicted in movies that was kind of the thing to do.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, we always had to share a lot of things as well. I remember we had to share things like mobile phones. Like we shared mobile phones for like years.
It's true.
And like, I used to hate it when you took the phone, and you used to hate it when I took the phone. We would start sharing like sports gear and stuff like that, and you didn't like that, and I didn't like that either.
Probably didn't get our own rooms until I think I was in secondary school. Yeah. So probably shared a room up until like 10, 11, I think it was. I remember getting our own rooms thinking, this is so
for
cool.
Sure. I don't know. So I guess just like having like your own identity is probably something, I guess. And then I guess as we moved through secondary school, I basically started playing up in sports. Like, again, academically we didn't cross ever, but then when it came to the sporting side of things, I would start getting played up to like the A grade when I was actually still a C grader.
Actually, pausing you there.
Yeah,
we played one game in primary school together. Do you remember? Well, I think we played a game where I was in the last year of school and you were in year 4, so you were playing up.
Yeah.
Into the older age group. I was captain of primary school, and I think you scored a goal from the halfway line.
Oh yeah.
Ball just came to you, just whacked it and then lobbed the keeper.
Against Peak, yeah.
I think that was right.
it,
Yeah. So I remember that was actually the first time that we actually ever played on the same team.
Yeah.
When I was probably about 10 and you were about 8. So I continue, go back to
and then we played in Portsmouth as well.
That's right, yeah.
When Fulton started crying when I gave away a free kick and the guy banged it into a top corner, absolute weldy. And then Fulton started crying and tried to kick the ball at me because I gave away the free kick. No, but I think, the next thing I can remember is kind of just playing up in age group stuff at school. It wasn't allowed at club level because you had to stay in your age group at club level. But in school, if you got signed off, you could move up. But then I guess since at that point, I wasn't really, there wasn't really like much animosity between us. Like you'd already headbutted me at that point,
yeah,
which we can go back to later on. But I think at that point it was seen more as teammates now versus like, and like a good teammate, not like I was a bag of shit playing in the centres. Like I was actually a decent player or footballer or rugby player, and I was adding to the team, and that obviously made me get a bit closer to your friendship circle, which I guess was the next headbutting point. Because there were definitely some times where I remember like I'd be with your mates or something, you'd be like, oh, just piss off to your own mates or something like that, or like I'm hanging out with my friends now, like time for you to go, and I'm like, oh well, they kind of are my mates now, and you're like, nah, go away. I definitely remember that happening a few times. That would probably be the only time I'd ever be kind of frustrated about, I guess, like an older brother, younger brother thing. But again, like not much that I ever held on to it. Nothing that I ever,
It's interesting. Like because I think about those years a lot of like being frustrated at you coming in and I'm feeling like you're stealing my friends, which is totally not what you're doing. And actually my friends like enjoyed spending time with you, but I feel like the mindset that if I can try and put myself into like 14, 15-year-old me was that I put in the work for these guys to be my friends.
Yeah.
You can't just come along and not put in the work and be friends with them. And I had forgotten the link of sport, that was probably the first in that you had to spending time with them. Because I actually remember when you first played up, and I think it was probably B grade.
Yeah.
I think it was. So, you would have probably been like year 9, year 10.
Yeah.
And that's probably when we first started playing together. And I remember like really liking it. Like this was so cool that we were like, because we also played positions where we'd basically be next to each other in rugby field, fly half and centre. And I thought that was awesome. There was definitely no animosity or like jealousy or frustration there. That was like, we're actually carving up here and doing really well. But I definitely do have distinct memories of like you being frustrated about you hanging out with my friends.
Yeah, I think the most frustrated I ever saw you, and then probably the time that I wouldn't really say I was hurt, but like I was like, what the hell is going on? It was when Fulton used to have a Nintendo 64, and he would invite everyone around to play Mario Kart. And I'd literally sit there like, Ed, is it okay if I come round to Fulton's house with you and play Mario Kart? She'd be like, no, you can't come today. We're just going, you're not allowed to come. I'm like, oh. And just like sit at home and like just sit there and watch. Or you like, you can come but you can't play. So I'd like go to Fulton's house and sit on the sofa, and like there'd be there's 4 controls, but there'd be 3 of you. And then me just sitting there by myself, like, and
it's probably because you played once and beat me, and I was like,
no, because I remember Fulton being like, oh, why don't you just play? I'm like, no, I can't play. He's like, mate, there's a spare control, just play. I'm like, no, Ed doesn't want me to play. He's like, yeah, don't fucking let him play, just fucking let him watch. And I was like, all right, just sit here and watch. And eventually I'd always play, but I didn't want to like cross that boundary of like upsetting you, or maybe your mates would be like, oh, you're not allowed to play as well. Yeah, that was like the only time, I guess.
Well, I appreciate you taking my orders.
Yeah. And then I guess the next thing from that would be, as I was transitioning into the sports teams with you, was when you started lifting weights as well at the same time, and I did not. I was still playing PlayStation and stuff like that, but I was also, again, still playing sports. And then you asked Dad to get you a weight set. You were going to Fitness First already, right? At this point?
No, you weren't. That weight set was before that. I think the weight set was probably when I was about 14 or 15.
Yeah, so you got the weight set. You got an easy curl bar, 2 dumbbells, and a fold-away bench.
Yeah, one of those like those adjustable bench, dumbbells. Yeah,
and it came in a little briefcase thing.
Yeah,
and I remember you used to just shout from your room, and then I would just come and spot you on the bench. That's basically what I used to do.
At least I wasn't getting pinned.
And I'll just sit there and wait for you to do your next set, and then just pick it up off the rack and then put it back in the rack. And that was basically what I did.
So funny talking about training, because I think the first time where I'd really like accepted well, kind of like basically a lot of the tension that I had towards you being the younger brother trying to be a part of my friendship group was the day that I realized you were stronger than me. And like, it's funny how I tied, performance in the gym with being like, okay, I no longer have the upper hand as much as I thought I did.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time just to like drop all that shit. And the time was, I think I was 17. Well, no, I was 16, and we were on a family holiday in the Maldives. Yeah. And I was like, all right, I'm going to the gym. And there was a little clubhouse gym, this tiny little gym.
I remember.
Yeah, and there was this machine chest press. And I remember you just said, like, oh, I'll come along with you. You weren't training or anything at this point in time. And I remember getting onto this machine and like, obviously no warm up, and just like shove the pin straight down to somewhere fairly low down the stack. And I remember cranking out probably not very many reps, and it was really hard. And I remember you were like, oh, should I come in? How many should I do? I'm like, well, I just did 6, so you'll probably be able to do a few. So like, just take it easy. And I remember you lying down and you just like cranked out maybe like 10 reps, and it was really easy. And I remember just watching being like, oh dear, this is it. This is a moment that I knew had been looming for a really, really long time. But I'm like, I remember that whole session, you won't even remember it, but like I was just picking exercises to see if there was anything I was stronger than you at. And it would be like, I felt like you were pretending not to push hard because you knew that you were already stronger than me, and you probably saw that I was getting butthurt that you were beating me on every exercise. So you started to like be like, oh yeah, I'll probably stop there. And you probably had like 20 more reps in the tank, and I'd just be like, okay, yeah, he's definitely stronger than me. And then around a similar time, so we started probably in Hong Kong. You started going out to bars probably when you're like 16, maybe even earlier. I mean, I started going out when I was 14, which is horrendous because I was looking about 9 and somehow getting to bars. But it's around this time where you would ask me if you could wear my polo shirts to go out, because obviously, when you're underage, you got to wear a collar to look a little bit older, and you didn't really have anything. So you come into my room and be like, hey, can I borrow a shirt for tonight? And I'd be like, yeah, well, what kind of shirt do you want? Oh, I just want something a little bit tight. And I'm like, they're all going to be baggy on you. And then you put on my Polo Ralph Lauren, fake Polo Ralph Lauren, obviously, which was very baggy on me. And you'd put it on and it'd be like busting at the seams. I'd be like, fuck sake. And I think that was the next moment where I was like, okay, he's well and truly caught up to me now. And then I remember that's when we would go out and actually like, it'd be really nice to have you there and like kind of welcome you into my friendship group. And it was just, that was a very nice point in time because I just let go of all that tension, all those all those silly preconceived ideas of ego and, showing the upper hand to everyone else was like kind of gone now. Yeah. Do you remember those times?
Yeah, I definitely do. I remember you used to always say, just don't stretch the sleeves. That's what you used to say.
And you put it on and be like, too late.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely remember that. Obviously things like trying to borrow fake IDs, even though I literally didn't even look like the same person. I mean, my fake ID at the time was literally a printed A4 piece of paper, which I used to keep in my pocket. I just spun the 1989, just spun the 9 into a 6 on Microsoft Paint.
Yeah. Mine was Word Art. Yeah. University of Chicago.
Yeah. I never got one of those. I just literally had the passport A4 piece of paper. But yeah, going out. Yeah, I think going out was one thing, but I think if we go, I'm jumping again, but I go back to the sports, was when I got into the Hong Kong rugby setup. You had done your shoulder, or you were injured or something.
I was already at uni at this point. That's when you entered the setup.
So I got my first cap when I was 15 for Hong Kong, because that's when I played against Singapore and scored 2 tries.
I don't think I was already away in uni.
But you'd had an injury, because you weren't in the Hong Kong setup, in the Hong Kong gym at the time, and I was going to the gym when I was at West Island School as like a kid.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was at my first year of uni, because I remember hearing about all of this through Dad.
Oh, okay, right.
And then coming back, and then
yeah. So that was like my first touch of proper training. Really, I'd kind of gone to the gym myself at that point after I'd done the bench pressing and stuff with you, and I just did some ridiculous bodybuilding style sessions, 10 by 10 of 10 different exercises, thousands of reps in a session. I used to do it with Alex McQueen, who still plays for Hong Kong Rugby now, and James Allen, who I went to school with, one of my mates at school. And that was just my daily routine. And then I remember once I got into the Hong Kong Rugby setup, I think that's when I got more accepted, I think, by everyone who's older than me. Yeah. Because at that point, I'm now mixing with almost 40-year-olds in the gym on a daily basis, and I was no longer now having time to play PlayStation. And I was like, I would finish school, I would go and play. I would do like West Island School rugby. I would then take a bus to go to football club, do football club football. Then I would do like the Hong Kong youth setup football, or the other day it would be Hong Kong youth setup rugby. And then the next day would be like the adult setup for rugby. And like, I just remember my life being so crazy at that point. And honestly, I think at that point in my life, I just let go of academics, and I was like, fuck this, I'm never going to read a book in the rest of my life. I'm just going to play sports. And like, this is what I want to do. That's what I'm good at. And I guess we were both doing that as well. And we were both in the Hong Kong rugby setup, and I just felt like that was like snowballing in a good way. So, I just kind of let school be a process for me to get through life. I never wanted to achieve at school. I've never been someone who thrives on the academic side of things, who I never cared about grades or anything like that. Well, I know it sounds terrible, but I never cared about it. Mum and Dad always used to force me to study. I honestly can't remember opening a book. I went to university, didn't even buy a book at uni, which is mental. I probably shouldn't tell us because Mum and Dad don't know this, but
They know. They knew the whole time.
I never even checked into the library. Never even met my tutor. Like, all this stuff is just, I don't know why, just academics wasn't for me. I'm not like an Elon Musk person who's going to be like a genius one day, but it just wasn't for me. And I guess that's the way that I started mixing more with your friends and your circle as well, which is always through the sports side of things.
Yeah. I remember it was when I was at uni, and I remember you had just entered the Hong Kong setup when I was away.
Yeah.
And then I came back for that first Christmas holidays, and I remember walking in a house, and like, you'd literally put on like 10 kilograms. You were much bigger than I was at this point. I'm pretty sure we were probably roughly about the same weight, but from what I'd seen of you, probably 4 or 5 months before that, and then you starting going to the gym in the Hong Kong squad, and then me coming back, I was like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
But yeah, I also, like, those are really good times. Well, I think coming back from uni, like, yeah, whether we were training together or just like throwing a ball around or going out and having a good time at night, I feel like that's really where our relationship got a lot closer in those years. So let's fast forward now to kind of university.
Yeah.
So I went to Newcastle University. So obviously it's still two years ahead of you at school at this point. And then you came to Newcastle Uni. We lived super close to each other.
So my first year of uni,
I was
you were
back.
in Hong Kong.
That's right. Yeah, I did a placement year in my third year.
Yeah. So your mates. So I played for the So the way that I got in is basically I got like a moderate level scholarship to Newcastle, and then that got me basically a route into the rugby team. They all knew that I played Hong Kong Sevens. They all knew that I had caps for international team, and basically fast tracked into the first team. And did really well on my first, like, I literally got to uni, Dad dropped me off, left me there for a week by myself because I was like an international student. So you got to check in a week earlier. Had 0 mates, didn't see anyone. I mean, there was just me and loads of Chinese people, and none of them spoke English. So like, okay, so I just sat in my room basically for a week, kind of walked around Monument and Haymarket in Newcastle, walked around the fields at Castle Leazes by myself. And then a week later, it was like, okay, cool, you're going to go to your first rugby training session. I was like, fuck, I don't know how to get there. Don't know what I'm doing. So I just got a black cab, which was heinously expensive. Got there, and then as soon as I got there, everyone's like, oh, you're Little Haynes. You're Little, or Hayno, or something like that. And I was like, who are all these people? And they're like, oh, we know who your brother is, but your brother never played for university. He played for Medics. I had no idea what was going on at this point. But it was Dave Warwick was the main guy who basically took me under his wing. He was a centre at the time, and we played our first game up in Edinburgh. Played for Newcastle first team against Edinburgh. Again, I scored 2 tries in that first game. We spanked them. And then we had like a massive trip back down from Edinburgh to Newcastle where I got like heinously boozed. Don't remember much, but then it basically went to the freshers initiation, and it was all your mates. Just like, if you want to talk about bullying, like that was like some ridiculous bullying, like physical abuse, like the shit I had to eat and put down my mouth was awful.
Things that they've banned at uni now.
Well, it then got called like lads and dads or something like that, and now it's just completely banned. But yeah, like those guys all knew who I was, even though I'd never seen them before. So that was nice, even though you weren't there. It was like a way in for me as a younger brother, or someone they knew. And obviously coming from overseas, you're an interesting person versus someone being from Rotherham. You're from Hong Kong, and it's way more interesting for people. So yeah, that was good to have. And then in my second year, so obviously I come back to Hong Kong for summer, and then in my second year, we basically both go back. You for your third year, me for my second year, and we live like 100 meters away from each other in Jesmond. Everyone lives in the same area in Newcastle, and then we started going to the same gym. Yeah, was it JD or JJB?
JD. I think it used to be JJB, then it rebranded to JD.
Yeah,
in Grove.
Biker. Yeah, I remember that. That was a good gym though. We used to cycle to the gym.
You know, I always think about those cycles, and I'm like, we would cycle every day, more or less, and like we'd be cycling through snow a lot of times, and it was a pretty brutal cycle as well. Yeah, like, there was a massive hill.
Yeah, down to Jesmond Dean and up
through Jesmond Dean. Yeah, and like I always think those bikes were from Toys R Us.
Yeah, they're bloody good though. They were from JJB.
But they're Toys R Us, no?
No, JJB. They were from JJB. But they only cost like 50 quid, not even. Less, like 40 quid. They were crap. Mine one broke twice.
Yours broke. Mine lasted amazingly throughout the whole year. Yeah. Through snow and sleet and ice. Never came off my bike, touch wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, so we went to the same gym. Obviously, you had some pretty torrid years with your shoulder and stuff at uni playing rugby. But yeah, I guess like, you know, I had my mates and then you had your mates, but then everyone at uni just mixes because that's just how it is. Everyone plays in the same team. Doesn't matter if you're in first year as a fresher or if like you're in your 10th year as a medic. It doesn't matter. You all still play in the same team. So I think your mates that I knew, I had those guys like Dave Warwick. There was Ed. What was his last name? The guy, the real furry guy.
Ed Moore.
Ed Moore. That's right.
Very hairy.
I had my mates like Ollie Tidd and Dave Leslie and guys that you got to know as well. So everyone just mixes by that point. It doesn't matter what age you are, which was cool.
Yeah, those are good times. I got some very good memories of mainly nights out in the gym, to be honest, in that last year of university, with you being there as well. Okay, well then let's move on to post-university now. So I left, you still had another year to go. Yeah. And I essentially came back and did two things, like started playing rugby for cricket club in the Premiership here, and then started Coastal Fitness essentially in that same year as well. And so I remember we didn't really kind of talk about, you know, what you would do after university, because like back then, like our family wasn't great at staying connected. Yeah, like we wouldn't really. I remember I talked to mum and dad maybe like once a term.
I would hate doing Skype calls.
If I didn't even have Skype when I was there, so it'd be like a phone call, honestly, once a term, and probably even I can't really remember chatting to you very much when I was back here starting life as like a post grad. Yeah. And you being over there, can you?
Not really. I mean, I spent so much of my university life in Hong Kong anyway. So I always saw mum and dad because I would come home. Hong Kong Rugby would fly me back. I would do a 2-week camp in Hong Kong, go for a 2-week tour, and then I would come back to Hong Kong. They'd be like, it's only a week before Easter. You may as well just stay here. And I'd be like, all right. So I never went back to uni. Stayed for the entire Easter. And end of Easter, I was like, it's a Hong Kong Sevens. You may as well just stay for another 4 weeks. I'd be like, all right, cool. So I was hardly at uni. I was away from uni throughout the 3 years more than I was at uni, which is crazy.
I can't really remember that happening when I was back here much. You know, when you were in your third year, did that happen much?
When I was in my third year, I had to give up so many tours because I was basically failing university.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, so I had to stop. I had to give up a lot of tours, and mum and dad were like, you got to pull your finger out and start going to your lectures. I didn't even know. I was failing my group assignment, which basically you have to turn up and you basically pass. I didn't even know it existed. Yeah. I remember you saying like, I had this group assignment. I just turned up and basically sucked up to everyone and got a really good grade. And then I turned up like 80% of the way through, and, you know, fair enough. All these people in my group hated me because I hadn't done anything. So then I actually did some work and they all then gave me good grades. So that saved me. That got me away from failing into a third, and then I got into a 2-2 after that. Yeah. But yeah, that was a pretty bleak third year. I didn't really enjoy third year. Yeah. In terms of like the academic side of things, like it was actually quite stressful, and like I said, I didn't enjoy anything academic, and I had to stop. Well, not stop, but do less of what I loved doing, which was playing sport, playing rugby, hanging out with my mates, which obviously is not what uni is necessarily for. It is for the certification you get at the end. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much the same when I think about university. It was like all my memories are about friends, I guess, going out and rugby and training. That's really it. Yeah. Like the academics, when I think back of uni, I've like got these these big memory blanks of like, I can't really remember going to lectures. I can't really remember doing work. It's like those things have honestly been erased from my memory. It's kind of scary. And I actually still have dreams/nightmares now about like missing university exams, missing deadlines, because I remember that last year was just very, very stressful. And I didn't even appreciate that it was stressful at the time. But I had like the only time in my life I've ever actually had insomnia was at uni. Like I had a 2-week period where I wouldn't sleep a minute, where eventually went to the doctors being like, I need some sleeping pills, so I actually can't sleep. I had I couldn't connect the dots that it was linked to the fact that I was so stressed. I did all-nighters.
Yeah.
You know, like I swore I'd never do an all-nighter, and then in my last year of uni I must have done about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
You know, just trying to get work done before a deadline. Super stressful.
I mean, I used to sit there and like stare at my laptop.
Yeah.
And when I say stare at my laptop, I actually would type maybe the. And like that's the only thing I would type. And then I would just sit there and actually just feel sad and depressed at A, how shit I was, because I couldn't write anything else at that. But like B, how disinterested I was in this entire year and how crap it was. And like just, there was nothing good about it. And obviously, you know, mum and dad, like they're trying to encourage you, but they can't really help with your degree that you're doing. Just like, hey, you just got to get your head down and work. For me, I didn't really have many mates on my course. 'Cause I didn't know who the hell anyone was because I didn't turn up, and that's my fault. So I was basically like so isolated. Yeah, and I remember it just being really not a very nice year, my third year.
Yeah.
Great with my friends and a great house, and still had some amazing times, and went to Spain afterwards and all this stuff. But like, you know, I just scraped through by the skin of my teeth and just got the degree and got out of there. Never want to do that again.
Yeah.
Like you said, I actually have nightmares like, oh shit, I got an exam. Or like nightmares of me not getting that book, which I never got. Not getting that book and then turning up and being like, you basically get an F straight away and fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, not very nice.
Interesting. I think whenever I get, and I've done a few career talks now where I've gone back to like our old school and done a presentation or, you know, university. And I just say to everyone, like, do something you actually love.
Yeah.
Do something you're interested in. Don't if you don't know what your life is, what your life might look like in terms of a career, just do something that interests you.
Yeah.
The hardest thing for me was doing something I had zero interest. We both did a marketing degree, essentially, nothing to apply it to, and it was just like a means to an end.
Yeah.
Do this, tick the boxes, and get a degree at the end of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, you know, I come back to Hong Kong. We had both grown up playing for the same club, Hong Kong Football Club, literally since we were pretty much 5 until senior rugby, and football and rugby. And when I came back, I made the decision to switch to a different club, which was like big news in Hong Kong, because I know that a lot of the clubs have been waiting for me to come back from uni, and, you know, we're kind of talking about who I was going to play for. And it was just kind of assumed that Ed would play for football club, and that was actually what I had intended to do as well. But it was also at the same time I needed some money to pay for my personal training qualification. I needed some money to pay to set up a company. Which was only like $1,000, but I didn't have anything. And mum and dad at this point were kind of like, which I'm very grateful for them for doing, said, you know, you can live at home, but you kind of got to sort out your own life now.
Yeah.
We'll be here to help you if you really need, but try and do things on your own. So, you know, football club were not in a position where they could pay any players at this point in time. They could only, what could they do? Yeah, they were basically the only club that couldn't pay players because of the club rules.
Yeah.
So Cricket Club had basically given me an offer, and offered me some cash, like a sign-on fee, which I could use to pay for my qualification. And I ended up having, you know, really good, however many years I played for football club, 6-7 years playing for football club, for Cricket Club, sorry. But, you know, you coming back, I remember I was like, oh, so I remember asking you, like, so who are you going to play for when you come back? And you were kind of like, oh, I'm not really sure. They kind of probably should play for football club. But I remember being like, nah, you should come to Cricket Club. Yeah. And basically trying to convince you to say, like, I think you'd love to come here. And I obviously remember speaking to the coaching team, being like, you know, my brother's coming back. You know, would you guys be interested in signing him? And I think they were like, yeah, let's do it. We can offer him some money and get you over here. What was your memories of that time?
Did I play straight away for Cricket Club? Did I? I thought I went to football club for at least one year or something.
No, your first season back.
Yeah. Yeah,
and we had a terrible season.
Yeah, we were so
that
shit.
Was an awful season. Yeah, we basically, like, the whole team had changed guard, new coach in, loads of players had left.
Yeah,
we came second last in the league that year.
Of course, they were last.
Yeah,
yeah, I remember. And all I wanted basically to do was just get some money. That was basically it. I didn't really care who I played for. I wanted to play for football club. Who was the coach at the time? It wasn't Juki.
It was Juki.
No, he was afterwards.
No, Juki was there because Juki hated me when I changed clubs. I still remember his message.
I thought Juki came afterwards. I thought he was like assistant coach at that time.
Maybe he was assistant coach.
Yeah, but anyway, so you never played for the age group, the older football club guys, did you?
No.
So I actually played for the older football club teams when I was still like a young kid. So they were basically like, "You're obviously going to come back," and I was like, I was like, "Well, you're going to give me membership?" And nah, you got to do 4 years. And I was like, "Well,
you already had membership."
I already had membership through mum and dad, and I could go to a cricket club, and they were apparently going to give me membership, and I got paid. So I was like, "Screw it, I'll just go to a cricket club and just play there." Cricket club also very helpful to me because they're just like, we understand that you have the sevens side of things as well, so you can kind of fob off training on those days when you do the seven stuff. And yeah, it just made sense to get a cricket club. There's just new people to meet, and yeah, I didn't really mind it at all.
Let's talk about when you first joined Coastal.
Yeah.
Do you remember that conversation? Or conversations?
Not really. I remember you just made me basically be like a demo bitch for you. But
before that,
no, I don't remember it. No.
I think I remember we were on the boat. My mum and dad used to live on a boat, and I remember just asking you like, "What do you want to do? Like, what are you gonna do now you're back?" And I think you kind of said something along the lines of, "Not really sure. Can I work for Coastal?" And I think it was just like blunt and just said, and I was kind of like, "Well, yeah, I was gonna ask you if you'd be interested in being
Actually,
a
I
coach."
do remember that.
Yeah. And I remember just saying like, "Well, I was gonna ask you if you wanted to work for Coastal. I think you'd be a really good coach. I think you'd really love it." And I remember just talking about how much I was loving it. And this had probably been about the company been running for about a year at this point in time. Yeah. Is that jogging any memories?
Yeah, I remember just kind of saying that.
Yeah.
Because I remember kind of like you were coaching people while I was in the Gold Coast gym, just working out. And I just thought, at the time, honestly, I just thought this looks easy. I could probably do that. No, yeah. I didn't really have any other thought in my head. Didn't really think like I could really impact people's lives. I didn't really think like I could be a positive spin on people's lives and, for the better. It was just kind of like, I've finished uni and I got no money, got no cash. I need to get on my own 2 feet. Mum and dad are basically going to kick me out of the house at some point. So got to get on my feet. And this is probably the most obvious step forward for me. Yeah.
I remember, so you and Bratsy had basically joined the company roughly the same time, didn't you? And obviously this is like my first, the first time I'd ever been like a boss of a company.
Yeah.
Because it was just me before that for a year, just doing my own thing. And so I think this is actually probably the period in our relationship where maybe the most amount of tension actually was created. And that tension was really from like me not being a very good leader and having inadequate communication skills. And so I felt like a lot of tension, and I've talked about the Coastal Fitness story a lot, and I guess my own evolution and growth as a person, but also as someone at the head of the company. But I felt that I had an inability to express what I was feeling at the time. So I would basically, bottle my feelings up, and then just kind of like, I would periodically break. And I was probably also really stressed at this point in time. I wasn't relinquishing control. I was doing a lot, working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, if not more, churning 120 hours of coaching at least, if not more. And I think those times, just me not looking after myself and burning the candle at both ends, probably led to like me breaking the relationships around me more than I should have. We still had some really good times. Obviously, we're playing rugby together, which means we're training 3 to 4 times a week on the same team, whether it's Hong Kong or the club. We're playing matches on weekends together. We're coaching every single day in the same gym together. We're living together at this point in time. We moved into a little flat in Happy Valley. And so basically like every day, majority of every single day was spent with each other. And I would say when I talk about the tension here, the vast majority of times were good times, but we would have these probably periodic times where we would clash.
Yeah.
Need to try and resolve things.
It was mostly over work though.
Pretty much all over work.
Yeah, it wasn't really about the rugby or anything else.
No.
It was just like, I was still getting on my feet with the company, I think, and you were definitely working more hours. And I remember you were doing like every certification that you could, like TRX, power plate, and all those lame ones. You were just doing every certification. You're like, why aren't you doing it? This is why you don't have more clients. You need to work more hours. And I was like, Jesus, like I've only just started. Like, Like, I only just learned how to do this stuff. And I remember you getting frustrated at me because I wasn't working hours, or I'd come home earlier than you or leave home later than you. I think a lot of frustration was in that as well.
Yeah.
Or I would make noise when you wanted to go to bed early, and then you'd be like, I have to work early, you don't. Just sort it out. Like, stop making so much noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I remember that sort of stuff. That's what I remember you getting frustrated at.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely remember many of those times over those early years. And I reflect on those times a lot, because obviously it wasn't just with you that it was happening. It was happening with many other members of the team that I get frustrated with. Again, just poor communication, poor leadership.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, let's now move to when we first started working together as coach and athlete. So at this point in time, when you first joined Coastal, neither of us were chasing or pursuing competitive CrossFit.
Yeah.
2014 was really probably the first year that both of us decided to take it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
At that point in time, you had hired a coach.
Yeah.
You had a guy,
OPT.
DJ Wickham,
Yeah.
overseas. So you were the first of like anyone at Coastal to hire like an overseas coach.
Yeah. I also hired Diane Fu.
And you remember, yeah, exactly. I remember that. And then that probably lasted about a year, 2 seasons.
DJ Wickham?
Yeah.
No, it was quite long.
Longer than that?
Yeah, almost 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. I do remember before you hired DJ Wickham, you had asked me to program for you just for probably like a couple of months.
Did I?
Yeah. And it was really shit programming. All I knew was basically like Charles Poliquin strength training.
Yeah.
So I basically programmed strength training, but then when it comes to the Olympic lifting stuff, I'd be like, I have no idea what the hell to write here. And I think that's actually what sparked both of us saying, we need to find an expert to actually learn how to do this Olympic lifting
we
stuff.
also weren't coaching a snatch at Coastal either.
Yeah, exactly. Because none of us could do it.
Yeah.
But I remember then thinking like, actually, I don't think I have the skill set to be able to actually do this.
Yeah.
And then, you hiring your own coach. But let's fast forward. Like, what was the year we started working together?
My second year of DFC.
That's right, 2017?
Probably, yeah.
I think it was 17.
Yeah, that was a pretty shit year.
Yeah.
I mean, none of it was your fault. I think it's just we started. Obviously, I had gone 3 years with DJ, and then he introduced me to Mitch Bernard, and Mitch and I basically did our own training together for a year.
Yeah.
Which was I think I got a lot better in that year, just being exposed to someone who had been in the sport for so much longer, and just. It's kind of like you learn the hard way. Just get buried in workouts and you figure it out. That was basically my training for a year. But very appreciative of him to show up in my life and then give me that. It definitely wasn't the best way to do it, maybe, but I think it was a necessary step in or like a part of the journey. And then he left Hong Kong after our first DFC, and then. Yeah, you basically said, I would like to program for you. What do you think? And I said, yeah, let's do it. Then I qualified for my next DFC. I just qualified, if I remember. And we basically went there. You came. That was the first competition you'd come to as my coach. And I was basically just massively underprepared. I don't think either of us knew like the enormity of just how big and how crazy DFC was. Obviously, I'd done it the year before, but I'd got through it. And I did pretty well. So we just kind of assumed I'd be okay with the volume of training that I have been doing.
It was also a very different year that next year, because there were some big names. There was some big names in the first year, because it was a very different format. I remember the year one is actually you went over
Split
there.
over 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, you went over there and did some qualifying workouts, and then it went to the next week. Yeah.
I mean, there's more workouts in the first year I went, but obviously it's spread out over 2 weeks. It's a bit easier on the body.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember, the first day of DFC was so brutal.
Yeah.
And I remember, just being on that track for 47 minutes in like full body cramp. I've never experienced anything so bad in my life.
I was just talking to Junior about that the other day when we were in a trail run, and he was getting some cramps and was reflecting on that.
Fuck, that's the worst pain I've ever been in my life. Like worse than any broken bones, ACLs and MCLs I can imagine. Like it was so painful.
Yeah.
And then I still had 2 days of competition ahead of me.
Yeah.
That was pretty depressing. But I also think I'm pretty good at getting over that stuff. I remember this is when you had started your style of coaching maybe didn't really match my style of being an athlete. it was like 10 p.m. at night. We just got back to the hotel room to share a room. And I was like, should I do an ice bath? I was like, nah, fuck that. I don't want to do that. It's the last thing I want to do. And you're like, no, you should do it. Definitely do an ice bath. Like, it's going to set you up for success tomorrow. I was like, no, don't want to do it. And then you basically force the bellboy to come up with some ice. And then as I was sitting there waiting for ice, she said, hey, we should talk about this and you should journal it. I remember just thinking in my head, like, fuck off. This is not what I want to be journaling about. Like, there's literally nothing for me to learn, right? Like in this moment right now, I'm like actually so depressed at my performance. I just want to not do the ice bath. I want to not eat. I just want to close my eyes and hope that I don't get a cramp in the middle of the night and I wake up and I hopefully just feel a bit better. That's all I wanted to do. I remember just thinking in my head, like, this guy's a dick. Just shut up. That's the last thing I want to do is like be introspective and like think about all this stuff. Just wanted to get it over and done with. Yeah. And you know, I'm pretty happy. I still put like my best foot forward in the competition and still gave like a half decent showing of myself. But yeah, it was a pretty rough way to start a coaching relationship, I guess.
Why didn't you just sack me?
I don't know. I don't think anyone deserves to be sacked after that amount of time. I don't know. I just don't believe in that. You know, you see, you know, unfortunately you see that now in professional sports. I'm not talking about one-on-one coaching across it. I'm talking about like your Jose Mourinho's of the world, your Carlo Ancelotti's and the football managing jobs, your Eddie Jones, the most recent one for England rugby. A couple of bad results, bang, they're gone. It's just like, I don't believe in that. I think you need to give everyone deserves a chance. Everyone deserves multiple chances. And people evolve, people adapt, people change. So like, you know, maybe that style of like, hey, Ant, journal, and you realize that that's not what I wanted. Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe I then realized that's what I need. And that can't happen in one competition. That needs to happen over multiple failures or multiple successes. And I think that's just, I think people are too quick to pull the trigger on stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that summarizes our coach-athlete relationship quite well. It's like not being afraid to try things, seeing in the moment if that's something that actually worked, and even reflecting, not just in the moment, if that was something that was actually providing the relationship with value, or providing you as the athlete with value, or providing me, the coach, with value, and then basically making a decision as to whether or not that's something we want to continue with. Yeah. So I don't think there was probably another time where I asked you to journal after that or force you to do an ice bath. Yeah. But you know, there was never being afraid to try things. I think, you know, something that I've always been appreciative of is as I would do more research and try more things, you know, obviously naturally those things would get passed down to you and I'd try things on you. You'd always be up for trying things. Then there's sometimes you just say that shit was rubbish. Yeah. I'm just thinking about a BFR, for example, like blood flow restriction training. I was going through a bit of a phase of like researching it and experimenting with it. Try to put it into your training. You're like, totally see the validity in it, but I don't like it and I don't think we should do it. And I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah. Let's move on past that. And I think, you know, just having done so many competitions now and gone through so many seasons, you know, even to this day, we still communicate on things that we can do better for each other to be able to provide more value to one another. You know, like for example, like when do I give feedback? That was something that I struggled with a lot at the time because, you know, being on the floor and being able to watch you train every day, I would see things happen and want to give my 2 cents on that because I think it would be helping you. But I also understand that when emotions are high and adrenaline is high, you know, feedback always has to be time and emotion sensitive. And I would sometimes give it not at the right time, you know, where you're kind of just like, you're fired up, you're trying to figure this thing out by yourself. The last thing you want is someone to come and tell you the thing you know is already going wrong, which kind of just feels like rubbing salt on the wound. And so, you know, now it's like, okay, let him have his time. And then maybe when there's a quiet moment, ask, hey, I'm seeing something, would you be open to hearing it? Yeah. And then going through it again. I think you've actually become a lot better as well at more kind of these days, like any time being open to that feedback and asking for it. Yeah, definitely. I think it's hard, you know, when you're, like you said, when you're in the heat of the moment, sometimes you just don't want to hear anything. And sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment and you're losing it and you can feel it slipping away, the last thing you want is like someone reminding you of, like you said, the thing you're already trying to do. Yeah. And it's just not working. You know, sometimes it's like, all you want is just like, you know, keep your chin up, keep your head up, keep going. And sometimes it's just like, I remember go back to DFC where I'm running around the track and I've already got like full fucking cramp in my legs. And I've got 5 laps to go because it's a 2K run.
And I look at you and I go, I got cramps. What do I do? Do I just keep going? You just like nodded your head. Yeah, yep, just keep going. I was like, right, fuck. Well, I got 4 more laps, basically sprinting with full body cramp. And that's like trust is gained in that. Those, maybe it wasn't the best thing to do. Probably should have pulled out like the other guy on the other side of the track who'd gone down. But it makes you stronger, it makes you better. I don't know. That's just like I said, it's like an evolution of a relationship. Relationship doesn't. That was a completely new side to our relationship.
Yeah.
You had the brother, you had the colleague, you had the boss, you had the teammate, and now you had the coach athlete. So again, like, every other relationship that we had has taken a minimum of 5 years. So why would a coach athlete be given 6 months?
Yeah. And it's like, I'm now thinking about this for people who are looking for coaches or coaches working with clients.
Yeah.
That like any relationship takes years. Like time is an amazing part to any relationship. Sometimes people do hit it off straight away. But I think too often we look for that like magical connection to dictate whether or not we want someone to be in a relationship with us.
Yeah.
And sometimes like it just takes time to understand one another. And even in our coaching relationship, we continue to grow and I think continue to understand each other more. And that's having lived together for 33 years.
Yeah.
Even still this side of a relationship is still growing and still evolving every single day. And so I think, patience is patience and communication, probably like the 2 really important factors when it comes to development of any relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even on the communication, just being honest with the communication. So like, even when I was working with DJ Wickham still, I'd basically stopped following his program and I was just training. Mitch and I were training together and I was basically just spending money for a Google Doc thing to come through, which was like just stupid. I should have just said like, hey, just want to let you know, I think we've come to the end of our road here, or I want to try something new, and just being open with him and he would have been fine with it, versus like it ended up that I basically ruined the relationship because I wasn't honest with him because I was scared to like break up with my coach.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let him down. Yeah. And I didn't want, but I knew he was also moving on with his life, but I was like, maybe the $50 that I'm paying is like really important for his engineering degree, or maybe he loves doing this. I don't know. This is stupid stories I was telling myself in my head, but I didn't want to let him down basically, or an end relationship, and I ended up ruining the relationship because of it. But yeah, I just, again, just open, honest communication with that.
Nice. Well, Ant, time is up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
That was a fun trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
Any last words?
You can probably tell people about the time you headbutted me in a sports hall when I was...
We'll save that one for another podcast.
Okay, cool.
All right, Ant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.